up earlier, we're going to start implementing the ajax and uploader function. So we already defined we will be able to grab our data from the form and from the drag and drop and pass it to this start upload function, and this start upload function is what's going to call our ajax uploader. So now for us to define the ajax uploader and other and the progress bar and other, so we're going to create a new file, a new javascript file, which we're going to call upload.js. Alright, here we're going to define a variable called app, which is going to equal to app if the app is defined, or an empty object. So we're going to define another private function to better organize our code like we did earlier. Okay, so this function is going to take in an object as an argument, and when we call the function, which is going to call itself, we're going to pass in the app that we defined as a variable here. So inside this function, we're going to define some private method. Let me just put a comment here, say private methods, and this private method we're going to define here is going to be the ajax method, which is going to make the ajax call to our backend server, and also the get from data, which we are able to get, allow us to get our data from our form, and lastly the set progress, which is going to be a function, a method to keep track of our progress, our upload progress. So what we'll do now, we just define this method, which equals to a function, and this is going to take in a parameter called data, then the get from data method, which is going to take in source as the source of the data, set progress, obviously is going to take in a value, so I have to know the value of our upload progress. So inside this ajax method, that's when we're going to make our ajax call to our backend server. So we're going to create a variable called http request, which is going to be equal to the new SML http request method, and we're going to define another variable called uploaded, which we'll use later on to keep track of if the file is uploaded or not. Alright, so here we're going to make our ajax call, but before that we need to define, you can use a better variable. Let's just before that we need a way for us to call this private ajax uploader. And how we're going to do that, we're going to define something like a public method to access these data. So we're going to say the object dot uploader, which is going to equal to a function, and this function is going to take in the options, that the options that we're going to pass into the ajax function that we want to call here. And that option is going to contain the option we're talking about is going to be the data and the token, and maybe probably the progress status and all that. These are going to be the options. So for that, we're going to see the object dot options will be equal to the option parameter that is passed into the uploader options. Alright, now this will all make sense in a bit. So for us to see options, so let's just kind of console.log object.option. Let's say object.options. Let's see first. Alright, so if you save this now, let's head back to our upload file. So we're going to bring in the scripts here that we just create. So we're going to create a script tag now, and this is also going to be static. Alright, Then inside the upload script, here is where we're going to access the ajax uploader. So we're going to call the ajax uploader here now. Since we already bring the script, we're going to say app.uploader. So here's when we're going to call this uploader function that is part of this uploader function that is part of this object. Remember, this object parameter is also the same thing as the app that we are defining up here, which is also an object. Yeah, alright. So we are accessing that here. So we are calling this uploader function from our start upload function. You get that? So here we're going to pass in, let's pass in an empty object first. So if we save this, and hopefully let's see, and save this, save. So let's start check if our server is running. Alright, if we open, just ignore these errors not found. So let's test the file now. Let's just try and upload something. You can see we are getting an empty object. Alright, so that means it's working fine. We're getting an empty object because we pass in an empty object into the uploader. If you come to the uploader here, we are passing an empty object, but this time inside this object we are going to pass in the file. We're going to say file, which is going to be the file that is coming from this parameter, upload parameter. And apart from that, we're going to pass in other things like the token, which is our CSRF token. We've not gotten that yet. We'll get that now. To get our CSRF token, we're going to define, we're going to grab it to just like we grab, and we're going to say let equal to token, which is going to be document dot get, I think get element by name, and the name of the element. If you inspect your, let's go to the, here we open our body, this element called this hidden element. So we're going to grab the name of this hidden element, which is the CFRF middleware token. Heading back to our script, so we are getting element by name. We're going to paste the name of the element, which is the CSRF token. This is going to return something like a node list. So we want to get the first element because it's just one element. So we're going to get the first, which is going to be 0 index because we want to get just one. Alright, that's how we'll get our CSRF token. They will pass this as the token. Also want to get the progress bar and the progress test. Also we'll grab it from the element here where we have our progress bar and our progress test, an ID of bar fee, and also the progress test. Also let's give an ID. Alright, we're going to grab this two also and pass it to the option here. Remember what we are, this object we are passing here is the option that we are also getting here. This object dot options here is what we are passing as into the uploader when we call this uploader function. We define the uploader function here and we are calling it here. So we're going to use this object dot option in our ajax call because we're going to call the ajax function inside here and passing these parameters as our data because the ajax function is expecting a data parameter. So let's grab the progress bar and the progress bar test. So also we're going to pass in the progress. I want the progress test. That's for that. So we're going to have a callback function here, which we're going to call complete. That's going to run when the upload is complete. And this, we don't have this working yet, so we'll get that working later. So but we just want to define it here first. Then also we can also, don't forget your comma because it's also part of the object. Then we also want to get an error callback that's going to run if we have an error. Let's say upload was not successful. come back to this, save this and go back to upload the JS where we have our awesome now. So we'll head back to the ajax call as the ajax function. Here we're going to open the ajax request. We're going to say dot open. Which kind of request we're making? We're making a post request. Which specific URL we want to send the progress to. We've not defined the URL yet. That's when we're going to define the URL in Django. Let's quickly head back to our Django script. Here we'll define first of all we define the view. So let's go. Alright, on that function we're going to call upload underscore processing. So first we're going to grab the channel that is doing the upload by just saying channel slug equal to the request.user.username. That's getting the channel. Then we're going to say if the channel we just query for is not known, that is, the channel is available, we have the channel, so we're going to make our post request and we'll check if the channel is not known. If the channel is not known, that is, we have the channel. We're going to check if the request is post. We're going to say if request. So if the request is post, we want to grab the file which ajax is going to give us. We're going to say request dot server. That's from our ajax and request. We are grabbing the file. So once we get the file, we're going to get the file from our ajax. We're going to say video files, which is the model. Let's import the model. From our model we also have a video files. So we import video files. So we'll head back. We're going to say video files dot objects dot create. We're going to set in the video parameter equals to the file that ajax is giving to us. Then we'll set in the channel equal to the channel that we grab from our first query. We're going to store this in a variable because we need to send back some JSON response. So we're going to say upload equal to the video that's already there. So here we're going to say data object. First of all, we want to get the ID. We're going to say first we're going to get the video underscore ID, which is going to equal to our upload, the video we just upload dot ID. Then so we want to get the video URL, so we're going to say video underscore going to be equal to upload. Alright, so this is, so once we create the object, this will create the object for us. Now we want to get the ID of the object that was just created and also the URL to this video file that was just created as our data, so that we're going to return a JSON response. So we need to import JSON response. We're going to import JSON, which is also going to take in the data that we just defined, and we're going to set safe. Alright, so let's import JSON response. Now I'm going to say from django dot http. Alright, I'll return the JSON response. Then if probably there's an error, we're going to return response to return this error back. Code. Alright, that's a server error. So that's for that. Does not have a channel and try to upload. We want to kind of return a redirect. Return a redirect with a message. Obviously we're going to bring in a message here. I don't think we've set up the message. It's a message.info. We have to import messages. Let's just put a comment here first to show that we're going to bring in a message here saying that channel, please create one. Alright, so that kind of message is going to show up. Then in the redirect, we are redirecting to, you can redirect to anywhere you want of your choice. May I just choose the file upload page. Don't have a channel, which we've not set up django messages yet. We'll do that later. Alright, so this, we need to create the URL for this particular view. And just can just grab this. You can just call this uploading. Then we'll call the upload processing method, and the name we can just call it processing. So that's our URL. You can save this and just grab this URL here. Back to our JavaScript and get this out of here. We don't need our upload.js file, so we need to specify the URL. So we can just specify the upload part slash uploading I mean. So once we open the request, next we have to send the request. So we'll send the request by saying http://send. I want to send the data that is coming from the ajax method, and also we need a way for us to handle our CF-RF token. So the best way is for us to send it along with the HTTP header. To do that, we also say the HTTP request, and the request header I want to set is the CS-RF token, objects.options.token. Remember, the token is part of the options that we are receiving from the uploader method. Alright, but right now our ajax method is not actually getting any data because we've not called this ajax method yet, so no data is actually passed over to the ajax method. So we'll do that in the uploader method that we define here. And before we do that, before we call our ajax method, we will provide a check to say if the object.options.file. Remember, our object.options is the object that we are getting from this that we are passing to this uploader method, which contains our file, our token, progress bar, and progress test. These are the options. So we are accessing the file. We are checking if the file is undefined. If the file is undefined, if it's not undefined, we want to call our ajax method that we define at the top. And this ajax method is actually expecting the form data. So for a test, let's just pass in an empty object first, and let's console log this file, passing this console log.file to see if we're actually getting our file through this uploader method. So let's save this now, and I hope our code will not break because I think we've not actually completed some stuff. But let's just console log and see if actually our data is being received from these options. Alright, if we refresh, so let's check the console. Just ignore this not found error. So let's just test by dragging and drop a simple file. Alright, you can see we are actually getting the file, but we're also getting forbidden. This has to do with the CS-RF token, so let's quickly check for that. But we are still getting the file from our uploader function here, where we console log this file, this object.options of file. We are getting the file list here. So if we open it, you can see the file that we are sending and the other informations about the file. Alright, that is working, but this CFRS token is not being sent along with the header. So let's quickly check why that is not working fine. Oh, I know the reason why we're having that error is because in our CFRF token here, we are only getting the elements. We are getting the element by name. We are not actually getting the value from the element. So for that, we have to put dot value. We are saying dot value. So if we save this, and hopefully let's refresh and try again to see if that error is gone. Drag and drop again. We're still getting forbidden. Okay, let me just quickly debug this issue of CFRF token and get back. Let's leave that now. We'll fix that later. I'll come to that. And then now that we are getting our file, we need to look for a way for us to pass this file to the ajax method, and we'll use our get form method that we defined there by using the passing the get form method, which is expecting a source, and the source should be our file. If we grab this, let's just cut this out and pass it into our get form data. And before we okay, that's for that. And now if we come back to our source, our get form data, let's just console log the source, console log source, which should also give us our data back, which is the form data, because we're already calling the get form data here and passing the form data into this get form data, which is also called by the ajax method. So if we save and we'll get back and just kind of refresh, and then just drag and drop again, you can see we are also getting our file. Alright, that's working. So let me quickly check the reason why we are still getting that CFRF token. Alright, there's no error. I just cleared our cache. I just cleared my browser cache and I did it, and I think it should work now. So if we refresh now, there's no error. We're getting a CFRF, just the browser, and I just have to clear the browser cache. Okay, so if we kind of drag and drop again, you see we are getting our file, but we are getting internal server error. The reason why we are getting this internal server error is simply because it's trying to send the request to our backend, our Django backend, and the current user is not logged in. If you check our console, you see what it says channel does not exist, because in our Django, in our view, the channel by the user that is logged in. You can see here we are getting sign in because the user is not logged in, because in our base file, remember we are checking here in this profile page, we are saying if the user is authenticated, we want to show everything regarding here, else we just want to show a button, a sign in button. So that's why here we are not signed up. For us to avoid our code getting to break because the user is not, couldn't get the user, we can just pass in a simple decorator here saying login required, so that instead of our code to break, it will redirect to the login page for us. So in this place, we put in the login required decorator. We have to import the login required from our Django contrib.auth. So let's quickly import that now by saying from django.contrib required decorator. Alright, so that will fix that for us. So what we do, we want to instantiate call data equal to a new form, that's form data object. Alright, now this form data object, we are going to kind of append the source file by saying data. We want to append in the place of file, we want to append the source Now remember, this source is returning as an array, so we want to return the first because it's just one file that we are posting, though it's returning as an array, but inside the array is just one file, so we are getting that first one file that we are posting. Alright, so once we do that, we have to return the data because we will need this data to complete our ajax. So return the data. As on this, now we can now complete our ajax method because our ajax method is not completed yet. That's why we couldn't complete our upload. Add an event listener to our ajax method by saying http. I want to listen for the ready state change. We want to call a callback function. Inside our callback function, we want to check for if our ready state complete ready state. We want to check if also this the status ready, this the status is also equal to 200k. We want to get the response from the server by setting the uploaded variable that we defined here, which will equal to the json.parse. We want to pause the request. What we want to pause is this dot request respond, sorry. So we are getting back the response and pausing. If we want to check, we can just console. Alright, so this will give us our response back, but if we test it like this, it will not work simply because we are not logged in, so the request will not be delivered successfully. So for us to actually get a good response, we have to kind of sign in first. Let's sign in as the admin because the admin has the channel profile page. That's okay. So just go back to the upload page. As we already signed in, so we can make our request now, because if we just try and grab a file and upload, you can see our response back, because if the response was successful, we are getting our response back. Our video was uploaded successfully. Alright, that's for that. So now we are getting our response back. What should we do to this response? We're going to pass this response back to the callback method that we defined here. Remember, we defined when we get calling this uploaded method, we defined a complete callback method which is going to receive the data. So this callback method, we are going to call it and pass this uploaded, which is the data that is expecting. Yeah. So for us to do that, we're going to say if we're going to check if object.options object.option.complete, because that's what we call the callback method, that's completed. I believe we want to check if it's a function. Yeah, we're going to check if it's a function. If it's a function, we want to pass call it again. If it's a function, we want to call the function by saying object.options uploaded as data that is supposed to receive. Remember, it's receiving the data here, and we are also consoling log the data. Alright, so we are calling this if it is if it's a function and the request is successful, because inside this bus is successful. Remember, we are checking if it's okay. That means if the request is successful, then we're going to create an X. X means the request was not successful. Obviously, the request is not successful. We want to call the second callback that we defined here, which is the error. Yeah. So first of all, we also create a check, something similar, by saying if object.object want to call this error method. Yeah. Yeah, it's not receiving, it's not expecting any parameter. If we were to, because we are just consoling log a custom error, but if we are passing the error from the server into this function, we also just pass the error here too. But for now, let's just leave this error like this. Let's use this upload was not successful. Alright, So if we test it again, we shouldn't see any change because we also we remove the console log here, and the console log is here now. So if we try and upload again, you see that we're also having the same results. So let's get back and just refresh, and let's try and upload something else. Let's upload let's say another kind of short video, and then alright, we are getting our response back. Alright, before we proceed to actually displaying the video, let's work on the progress bar. And how we're going to do that, we're going to add an event listener to the progress of our upload. In here, we're going to call the http request.upload. So what we are doing now is actually adding an event listener to the upload, not the HTTP request per se, but we are actually adding an event listener to the upload. We say add event listener. I want to listen for the progress event, and then this should be in string. I want to listen for the progress event. Alright, and we'll call the callback function. Right, so this is going to take in an event parameter, which is e, and this is actually going to send us back the progress as our response. And so we are going to create a check. First of all, we're going to store this in percentage. We're going to create a variable called percentage because we are having the progress sent back to us as a response. So we'll create a variable called percentage first. And secondly, we need to first of all check if the progress event is computable by saying e.length computable is equals true. So we want to check if the length of the progress event that is returned back to us is computable. So if that is true, we want to calculate the percentage by setting the percentage variable that we define equal to math.rand as math.rand math.rand. Then we have the e.loaded divide by e.total times 100. But what we're going to do, we're going to wrap this around the parentheses to make it more presentable. Alright, so times 100, that will give us percentage value times 100. Alright, so the event progress event that is returned to us has loaded and has a total property. So we are dividing the e.event and by the e.total times 100, which will actually give us the percentage, and this we're going to store this in the percent. I spelled this wrongly, percent, and this also should be percent. So now if we do a console.log for the value of our percent, we'll see that the values of our percentage. Okay, if we save this and let's try and upload another file, our console, let's refresh one more time and just alright, once we refresh, let's try and upload again and watch our console this time. Once we drag and then drop, you can see the value of our percentage Let me try and expand this console log, this console area. You can see our response, the value of our percentage that's given to us in numbers starting from 0, 1, like this is the progress of the progress bar to 100, and you can also get our video response back. Alright, so we're actually getting the value of our percentage. So what we're going to do now, we're going to pass this to our set progress method that we defined earlier. If set progress, passing in the percentage value, Alright, remember this set progress, we defined this method in yes, we defined the method here. Alright, and this method is expecting a value which is going to be the percentage that we just passed in to our set progress here. Now inside our set progress, we are going to create some kind of check. Object.options .progress, it's in progress bar, because remember in our options here that's coming from the uploader method, we pass in the progress bar properties, which is also coming from this element document.getElement by progress field ID, and store it as progress bar, so we are passing it as a property, so it's part of our option. That is, we want to check if it's not undefined. If it's not undefined, not defined, sorry, if it's not undefined, object.options.progress, we want to set the width, we want to access the width, because this is an HTML element, so we can access the width of this HTML element with the JavaScript style property. We want to access the style property. I want to set it equal to a check of the value. Remember, based on the value of the percentage that we are getting, so we don't want to just pass in the percentage value directly like that, because the percentage value is actually in progress, increasing check. We're going to use a ternary operator by saying value, which is the value that is being passed in. We want to check if the value exists, and if the value exists, we want to pass in the value, a percentage string like this. That is if the value exists. Else, if the value does not exist, we want to pass in a 0 value to it. Alright, so that's it. So this is a ternary operator. I believe if you are familiar with JavaScript, you should know about it. ES6 syntax. So it's this width property that we are accessing with JavaScript now, and we are increasing the width property with the value of our percentage that we are getting based on the upload event status. Alright, that's also, let's test it now. Let's see if it will work and kind of refresh. So if we try and upload a new file now, let's drag and drop, you can see our progress bar is increasing based on the value of our progress. Alright, that's for that. So what we need to do next is to access the progress test, so that we can show the value of the percentage as it's increasing. So in progress test, that's the progress test, which is inside the progress bar. So we're going to access this now, set this test to be the value of our percentage. Is exactly the same thing. So we're also going to create for a check of objects not undefined. We also want to set the value as in object.options test, not inner HTML, is the inner test we are setting. So once set this inner test, once set it equal to a check of the value, so we're going to also go check with the ternary operator by saying value. If the value exists, we want to set the value, append it with the percentage sign. Sorry, not 0, empty string. I'm going to paste an empty string here. So if the test is not set, it should just be blank, no test there. It should be the value of the test. Alright, so save this. Okay. Alright, let's try this. Let's just drag and drop this. You can see the test is already here, so but we can actually use CSS to style it better. Test now again. Okay, this time let me use the standard upload, because I've been using the drag and drop. Alright, let's test with this. Let's pick this and let's hit the upload. Alright, you can see the progress bar working, and the progress test also is a bit better now. So that's for that. So now we're going to handle the response. What I want to do with the response, you can see the response is console log here. We have the video part and we have the video ID. So I want to display a kind of a little frame of the video at the right hand part of our page, so we can see our video upload when it is completed. So that's what we're going to do now. Callback function, because this complete callback function is actually receiving our data. So this data is made up of our video ID and our video part. I upload the page, we created this little div where we call the upload finish. So we're going to kind of display the finished file in this upload finish. So we're going to grab this div now by the ID, give the ID of upload finish. So we're going to select or call this finished, or whatever you want to call this finished. We just say which is equal to document. Alright, so we're already getting that element now. So inside our complete callback function here, we're going to work with that element here. So first we're going to define some function to some variables. I'm going to call this uploaded element first, then we're going to define another one called uploaded video, uploaded video, and lastly we're going to import another one called video source. Alright, or better still, to avoid repeating ourselves, we can just put all of them in one line as this. Alright, so we define these three variables. We just define element. We're going to set it equals to document.create. We want to create an element, and the element we want to create is just a simple div, which is going to be just a div to house everything, and we're going to give it a class name. We'll say uploaded. Okay, so that's for that. Then secondly, we're going to define the upload video. Also is going to be equal to a document.create tag and HTML video tag. Alright, control, because this is a video tag, we can set this a boolean value, this returns a boolean value, so we can set it to true if we want the control to show. So that's for that. So we're going to get our video source now. So we're going to call the video source variable that we defined there, and this we're going to equal to be the same document.create element, because video actually takes the HTML5 video tag takes in the source, and this video source we're going to assign .source, and this is going to equal our data. Remember, our data contains the data that is coming from here has our file part .video part. We have video underscore part, which is being returned, and also we're going to set the video source type. I want to set the type to be a video file /mp4. So what we're going to do now, we're going to append the uploaded video.append child. And what do we want to append? We want to append the video source as the child element uploaded video, because of the uploaded video is having the video tag that we created, so the source is going to be inside the video tag. Alright, the uploaded element.append child also. So I hope you understand the JavaScript. And lastly, we want to append everything, which is the div element, which we called finish. Yeah, this finish, we want to append everything to this finish variable here. So we're going to say finished.append child. I want to append the whole of it, which is the uploaded element. Alright, so that's the uploaded element now. Append to the finish. Okay. Want to give a class, set the class of this upload finish.class name. Want to set it back to the class that we call the upload complete. So let's save it now, and so let's check our CSS, our custom CSS file, and see, okay, upload complete. I also define some style, just a width, a height, little padding and margin button and all that. So we're going to save everything now, and so let's test it out now. Let's see if we can, and let's drag and drop a simple video. Okay, we are not getting our element. Alright guys, the reason why we are not actually getting our upload is simply because in this upload.js file, where we actually created a check, they say if the option.complete is a function. Actually, we are not really getting a function here, it's returning a string, so we have to set the type of. So we are actually checking for the type of. If the type of object.options.complete is a function, that is where it's going to work. So that's why we couldn't get. So it actually took me time to figure it out. So it's supposed to be we are checking for the type of the complete if it's a function. So alright, so once we save that browser and refresh, and then the file, let's pick from any of these file and drag and drop. You can see our file is being displayed at the right hand of our page. Okay guys, this video has actually been a very interesting one, and we want to end it here now. So we'll proceed in our next video, where we'll be able to provide the details and the information of our video, like the video title, descriptions, thumbnail, and every other things we can provide there. Alright, so don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so that other Django developers can find this video easily.